All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late here. Or like 5 minutes late. Well, yeah, five after I was moving it back to 7:15. Oh, that was well, whichever. Yeah, it's me. Whatever. But it is what it is. Elliot, welcome everybody to this week's edition to the Tennessee USA Wrestling Power Hour Podcast, episode 44. I'm your host, State Chairman Mike Hatcher, and this is Andi Jones, my co-host. What's up, Coach Jones? How we doing?
Good. Just got out of practice. Nice flush days.
Yeah. But the problem was we were going to say, so we moved back to 7:15, and now we're 7:20 because our first guest who we're going to have on, we're not going to needs no introduction whatsoever. But we started like chopping it up, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, we might want to get the podcast started.
Might be time, right?
Yeah. What's going on in your world? Let's cover that real quick, and then we'll have our first guest on. Anything?
We had a really good tournament here at Blackman this past weekend. I was unfortunately unable to come this weekend due to a personal reason, but we had Coach Heathcott.
Oh, I was trying.
Hey, how we doing?
I tried not getting in here.
So what was that?
Oh, it's all right. We got another special guest tonight.
Right.
This guy.
So how many people were at our tournament this weekend?
760 something.
760.
Oh.
And how many of them were girls, roughly?
Right under 200.
So
wow. So 750 total. 760 total, and just under 200 girls.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys
wrestle?
Did you all just get done wrestling this tournament just like a couple hours ago? Or
5:15.
I mean, 700 kids.
There was a record departure time of 5:15.
Oh.
So Dale Bradford, everybody working their magic,
Yeah.
So, but no, I had a lot of people tend to reach out to me afterwards and stuff about different tournaments everywhere we go, and I had people messaging me, complimenting our tournament as well as our girls and their behaviors and all that. They're
Awesome.
wrestling first, but then the behaviors and all that stuff. It's always, that's always great to hear.
Had
a great weekend.
That is a monster tournament. Wow.
This thing, it keeps growing. I think this is the largest one yet.
Yeah, is that right, Coach?
That is correct, sir.
Those who don't know, Coach Heathcott back there, head coach at Blackman Men's Wrestling. Andi Jones, head coach of Blackman's Women's Wrestling. So yeah.
But no, just coming off that, and now we're just prepping this week, for the tournament this weekend. So
love it. Where's the tournament this weekend? What's going on?
Ravenwood.
Oh wow, we got preseason tournament. Where's Ravenwood? Okay.
It's not preseason.
Oh no! Oh, it's just actual tournament. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I don't think it's preseason. This isn't preseason anymore, right? No. I hate when people ask me questions like that.
This is it. I'm so out of the loop. We just keep practicing year round. I don't even know. I asked the kids the other day, you guys, the season start this week? They're like, yeah. Okay, cool.
I always have to look at the TWSAA papers, and it's like, okay, this is when that starts, and here's this officially. So we have two preseasons.
So this is it. Official start of the season this weekend, and this is Ravenwood girls tournament.
I want to say they have both, but they may have boys too.
Okay, boys and girls. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I might have to pop over there and watch.
What do you do it? Oh yeah, you're free. You're man. Like I'll go wherever I want.
That's always usually the question of the day is what am I doing this weekend? I could go watch the Ravenwood boys and girls tournament. I probably will go watch a little bit of the HVAC middle school tournament. I've got my kids are all over the place, and then I don't know. I think I need a little sun. I might be down in the Bahamas. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. I don't know. So you've got to get introduced to that yet because you're not used to that part of your life. Wait a second. Wait, wrestling or the Bahamas? How does that work? But our next guest knows that really, really well. Our first guest, she knows that really well because she spent a year with me on this podcast, and she knows exactly what happens in my world. So that's how we do it.
I wonder who it could be.
But I'll be back on Sunday for practice. That I will be. I do know I will be. I know where I'll be on Sunday at 3:00. I will be at Brentwood Academy at wrestling practice. There we go. That's what I got this weekend.
Permanent date.
Good. Well, that sounds like you've had a great week, and congratulations to Blackman. That's awesome having had monster numbers at their preseason tournament.
The boys put together. It's the boys tournament, but they put together an amazing one. It just keeps growing. It's really awesome. A lot of help from a lot of people make that happen. So as you know,
again, you know what? I'm really, really, really glad that we do not do results on here because we might be on here till Thursday. All the results from the Blackman tournament. I think, yeah, it could be a while. Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get into our first guest here. She needs absolutely no introduction. I'm probably just, honestly, I'm going to bring her on here. I don't even think, do we even need to introduce this person? I don't know. Do we?
Yeah, like it.
Back, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I missed
back in a different role.
This is weird. I feel like I'm used to you being up here.
Yeah.
And me being there. It's like a Brady Bunch moment, right? We're like all switched up.
I know. I've never been on the bottom, I don't think.
Oh, here we are.
All I'm saying is that here's my plan right now is I was just going to get the two of you on the podcast, and then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to go and remove myself from the. I'll let y'all chop it up. Y'all talk about it, and then probably
get a drink.
Probably get a lot more out of that than they would with me in there. So anyway, Kenya Sloan, how we doing?
You.
This is the ex podcast a co-host here at the Tennessee USA Wrestling Power Hour.
Is that what you said, X?
But the new Division One
retired.
Yeah, retired. There we go. Retired. Retired Power Hour podcast co-host, but new Division One college wrestling coach at Sacred Heart University, Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us. We know this.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
I just want to say how excited I am about that for you, by the way. A huge congratulations from all of the Tennessee women's wrestling people, because that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. We're very happy for you, and I just like seeing you just keep boogieing and boogieing.
This is awesome because we literally have two Tennessee women's wrestling legends on here. I mean, honestly, this is I'm telling you what, I don't think that the people understand, when they're either listening now or if they're going to be listening later or whatever the case may be, what we have here as far as if we had Mount Rushmore of women's wrestling in Tennessee.
Getting deep now, Mike.
I'm telling you what, this would be 2 of the 4 for sure. 100%.
Oh my goodness. We already done half the work. Now we just need the mountain.
My assistant, Kenya, I'm going to get you one.
No, I couldn't look at it.
It's a little creepy how much they do look like you. My assistant coach got that for me as a gift, but we're halfway to Mount Rushmore. So thank you for that. That's the big words, Mike.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Kenya, tell us, how's everything going at Sacred Heart? I think the last time we had you in the podcast was your last time as my co-host, and you were talking to us about the opportunity there. And so let's fast forward now. What has been? What have you been up there? 3 months? 4 months? Yeah.
Okay, September, October, almost 4. Yeah.
4 months.
So the last time I was on the show with you was I was at this table, I think, but I had just got I didn't even have my furniture set up. I literally just moved here.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think the second to the last time you were actually in the car.
I was in the car
because we were interviewing Jody Strittmatter and Coleman Scott.
Yeah,
she's like, I'm not missing that one. So she's driving down the road doing a podcast.
Some of the most well-known guests we had on our show, arguably the biggest one. And I'm in my car with all my belongings behind me.
Yeah,
that's fine. Makes for a great backdrop.
We tried not to I don't know,
disclose too
much of it, and people are probably now they're looking back and oh yeah, it was all. Yeah, that's right. She had all of her stuff in the back seat. Trying to do a podcast. So that was funny. Yeah. So how's everything going up there? Going good?
It's good, man. It's I didn't have a single clue. I don't think what to expect coming into this job.
You two keep talking. I'm gonna close my window here.
You're good. I was honestly probably maybe a little naive about it. I was just oh yeah, next new fun adventure. I'm gonna be a D1 program. So cool. I don't think I was ready. But I feel like I'm rising to the occasion.
Of course.
Can you ever be ready until you're in it for something that big?
Listen, no, not really. If you've never done it, that's a lot to take on.
A different adventure. I had someone, I still do my stretch therapy stuff. I know how you know, but I still do that in the evening. And so one of my coworkers there today asked me how was your day? You were at work today, right? And I was yeah. And he was what do you do all day? You just go to practice. And I was oh God, I wish. I was let me tell you about this fire I put out today, about this flight that I had to change today. Let me tell you about this meeting I had to go to today. It seems it feels like a sprint every single day, but I'm loving it right now. It's just challenges you never expect. Like, I think it also doesn't help that my coaching experience before, I was never, right, I helped out on the high school, but most of my experience is on the club level.
Mhm.
And they're all like children, right? So at the end of the day, their problems go home to their mommy and daddy. Oh my God. My
I
cat.
know we are paying attention to the cat too. He's like,
Sorry, no.
yeah.
No, it's cool.
I was hoping for like something big back there.
Yeah, my leftovers.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's funny is when you get those same questions, that the question you had in the coworker there, when you get the same questions from your athletes. What do you and coach do all
I've
day?
gotten that.
Yeah,
I was like, I went to
exactly.
lunch with
Like
someone,
thinking,
and I was like, I got to
you
get
all have
back
no
into
idea.
practice.
You
And
have
she was
no
like,
idea.
what do
Yeah,
you do
you're
in
right.
there?
You have no clue. You have no clue what we do all day. Yeah, you have no clue.
Literally.
You have no clue how much we work to support Yale's dreams. You have no idea.
It's helped me exactly support their dreams. It's helped me to gain so much respect to like all the coaches that have helped me along the way, because I'm just over here, you know, showing up and doing the workouts and thinking I'm doing the hard part, which granted, I mean, it is my responsibility as an athlete, but there's just so much that goes on behind the scenes that they don't even know about, that we're just always like looking out for them, always having their back, always trying to figure out, you know, how we can get them, like we're 5 steps ahead of them, right? And they'll come to us and they'll be like, hey coach, this happened, or I have this problem, or what do you think? And we're like, we know, we've already been talking about it for a week, you know. Here are your options, and here's, you know, how you should go about it. So yeah,
So
it's helped me.
I have a question. Your
Mhm.
perspective of, which I know you did some club stuff too, and with the high school teams as well. But like your perspective or I think about you coming as an athlete up there now, as far as like you're talking about the responsibilities and stuff like that. Because I will continually say that people easily leave out the admin portion of the job 99% of the time. That for you guys, there's things like fundraising, right? Alumni relations. You got all these other things that there's the growth of the program and the growth of the fans and all these things. So when you how can I say this? What are your main as far as hiring you in as an assistant coach? What are your main objectives?
Like, what are my like day-to-day responsibility type things?
Well, I mean, kind of what you just said, but like, so are you having to do a lot of well, the fires are always there for everybody, I think, first of all. Like nobody's immune to that in the coaching space. Everybody has to deal with that. But are you having to do any kind of like work in the fundraising end of it, or recruitment, or
The way our staff is set up is, so first of all, Paulina, who I know you know, she's the head coach at Sacred Heart. She actually ran this program completely by herself last year. She didn't have an assistant at all.
That's
And
crazy.
so-
You told me that, and that's
it's
nuts.
insane.
And now that I'm in it and I'm in it with her, I just have so much respect, and I just see how much that she's really done for the program. But we kind of do a lot of things, right? So I think some of the main things I've kind of taken over is our social media. If you follow us on social media, we post like multiple times a day. We've got an SID who will do some graphics for us, and so I'll communicate back and forth with her.
I know.
It's Instagram,
Yeah,
right?
everyone go follow Sacred Heart.
Everyone,
Get on there. Do it right now. Let's do
we're
it.
doing it. We're listening.
I had a friend recently who was like, I know I'm always looking, I follow your guys' page and I'm always like trying to
Sacred
find
Heart
you,
Women's Wrestling. There it is.
but I never see you in the videos and pictures. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I'm the one taking the videos and pictures.
I'm the one behind the camera.
Yeah. So that's been a big
You got a new follower. Coach Sloan.
followers. Hopefully a bunch of followers after this.
I hope so. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think our social media is a really good account to follow, because there's so much. I'm not going to say we're a step behind, but we're just in an interesting like scene for college women's wrestling right now, where there are so many programs popping up that it's hard to keep up with who's even out there. What school has a team, and it's not like there's teams that have been there for years. So there are some, but we're not one, right? This is the 4th year of the program, and so even though we're only one of currently 4 D1 programs for women.
Now, who's the other? Now you got you and Iowa, and who's the other 2?
Us, Iowa, Presbyterian, and then Lindenwood.
Presbyterian. Okay, that's right.
Yes. And so, but there are lots of girls out there wanting to wrestle in college that don't even know like what schools have a program, right? Or they know, oh, maybe I want to wrestle D1, and like you, right? The only one they know of is Iowa. Well, your chance of getting a spot there is maybe not. Maybe we should
Well,
open up.
Yeah.
we'll
And
narrow
so
it. Yeah.
Well, but
most of our presence, like to the high school community, is through our personal social, our team social media platform,
true.
right? And so it's a big deal for us to have, I mean, almost a daily presence. For us to, not everyone gets to come and visit, but you might have an idea of what it looks like to wrestle in college by following our social media because
Yeah.
we're posting our community service events that we do, which gives you an idea. We'll post our, some content from practice, from our weight training. They'll get to see some content from weight training. They'll see content from our team bondings that we do together, right? And I think it gives a lot of girls in high school like an idea that follow our page. Like even if SHU doesn't end up being where they want to go, it gives them an idea of what their life would be like wrestling in college compared to a lot of other I mean, there's some programs that just don't have to publicize like that, like Iowa. Everyone knows that Iowa has a program, right?
Yeah.
So they
I
don't.
will, I will say their social media is pretty hot though. If you check it out, like they're killing it too. I think it's such a key piece for college teams right now.
It's
Well, it's
so
probably,
big, especially for women.
maybe I'm totally wrong about Iowa's program with this, but it's probably not their coaching staff doing it. They probably have somebody that's
No, they have
I can tell you.
it's a social manager, and it's a whole other. I mean,
No,
I think you and I discussed this. I'm just like, okay, now how is this fair? Because I know what type of facility, what type of not only facility but turnout, and I'm not starting to cry for the other teams, but at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, this is like. We got to get some of the D1 teams to like get involved in this type of thing because you're looking at, I mean, you bring a high level recruit in, and you put them in that environment right away. That's
There's
like
no comparison.
Yeah, I mean, they have more. They probably have more fans come to one dual meet, the women's dual meet, than a lot of Division I men's teams have come to.
Well,
because it's in Iowa.
I think that's going to evolve though, right? Like I think I think everybody was kind of waiting on the University of Iowa to start their program, right? And I think that because of that, we're seeing some other ones. I got to go see the quad duel with all the D1 schools there, and I cried a little bit, because you see all these little kids, these little girls walking down there with these little stout shoulders, just walking down there to go watch it. And I just think that you guys are like a continuation of that, right? And you guys are a harder school to get into, so you're going to need some brainy kids, right?
And I know this. You did your research on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So now, okay. So social media. What other type of responsibilities you got, Kenya? What else you do all day long? Not a lot.
What else do I do all day long? Well, we have meetings, right? We have meetings with our compliance director. We have softwares for, especially, I mean, the NCAA is a good bit more strict than NAIA where I came from, but the D1 is exponentially more strict and just like recruiting and eligibility. And so there's always changes. There are always.
So you do your own compliance too? Or
we have a compliance department who checks us, and we go, we can consult.
Right.
But and they educate us too, right? So anytime there's a law passed or they're considering passing one, like we'll have meetings so we can just learn and make sure that all of our behaviors and actions are in compliance with like NCAA recruiting rules. So we have meetings with those. We have
the compliance scares me, by the way. Isn't that intimidating?
My compliance director, I mean, every small little thing, I just walk upstairs and I'm like, hey, am I allowed to do this? Like, I don't really want to think this for myself. I'm thinking about doing this. Is that okay? Hey, I was going to send this text message to this person. Is that okay? Hey, we're because you can never be sure.
But that's the thing, though. Like doing this at an especially a D1 school like yourself, and nothing, not taking anything away from NAIA schools, but it's two totally different situations. I mean, just from the compliance
responsibility level.
My first D1 job, where I was actually like a legitimate D1 coach. When I was at Chattanooga the first time, I was the volunteer coach and then RTC director, which was totally fine with me. I didn't have to pass a compliance test. I didn't have to recruiting test. I didn't do that. So I was like, good, thank goodness I don't do that. So finally, fast forward, and I'm at Cal Poly, and Coach Cerritas hired me as a second assistant, and now I had to take the recruiting test. I had to play by all these rules now, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't know if I like this.
Man,
this is so terrible.
The first time we went to Super 32 to recruit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's hard because even though the NCAA and NAIA are separate, in a way, we're still not in a way. I mean, very directly, we're competing for the same athletes.
Yes. Oh,
right.
100%.
It's not separate yet. And so for us to go to Super 32 and already, have in mind some of the athletes we want to speak to, and we'll get to watch them wrestle, but we can't speak to them the day of their competition in person.
Yeah.
right? So we're Matt's side, and we get to watch a recruit who we've been communicating with and we're excited to talk to, like have a really good match. And then we get to see 3 other teams that we're competing against and go straight up to that athlete and get to talk and give him a
Yeah.
hug, a handshake, and tell him good job and give him pointers. And we just have to sit there with our hands in our lap.
I know.
It's an uphill
It
battle. for
sucks.
sure.
Yeah,
But
that
I
would
think it's really
totally suck.
important for athletes to know though, because I think it can put off the wrong image, like, oh, maybe the school's not interested. But
Yeah.
as an athlete, it's really important for you to understand, the rules and regulations around recruiting for the schools you're considering, because you could be led to think, oh, maybe they're not interested, so I'm not going to follow up, or this person's been more active, so that's obviously who wants me more. But sometimes there are different rules. They're 2 different games, and it's not really a fair playing field, if you ask me. But
Yeah, I agree.
What's the age?
Is it the same thing? Is it the same way? I'm assuming it's the same way, but Division 2, Division 3 is very, very similar compliance. as
D2,
Division
D3 is even much more lax than D1. So
Oh,
they
wow.
can speak to athletes, day of competition. So like, right, D1 is the only one that has that regulation, and there's 4 of us.
Wow.
So every other program,
Everybody else is just a free for all.
yeah,
It's-
we're just there, like, dang.
So note to self, young people, if there's a D1 coach watching you and they're not talking to you, there's a reason.
Yes.
They can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. I feel like we look snooty. We're like arms folded, just watching,
Yeah.
and not saying anything.
I just
But
don't know.
really,
This is like just hands down. They say like psychologically, like this is a closed off position. I
Y'all
don't
need
know.
to get some T-shirts that say, "Yes,
I can't talk to
we're
you."
very interested. We just all these other schools can talk to you, but we can't because
Yeah.
it's a match.
That's
That's
on
like
the back.
your match day T-shirt.
yeah, we
To
should
say
have
we can't talk to you today, but all these other schools can.
call you
It's-
tomorrow.
How about it's not you, it's me. Like, something like that,
Literally.
right? Like it's not me, it's not you, it's me.
Not you, it's the NCAA. I'm sorry.
Not you, it's NCAA.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I know a T-shirt guy that can get you some shirts.
That's
Okay, I could
great.
probably donate them to your program.
Yeah. I know a guy too.
There we go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, your recruiting day T-shirts. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. Wait. So now, like I said, I just want people to, like I said, we have, obviously, the D1 college coach here on the women's side, 1 of 4, ladies and gentlemen, 1 of 4. And I want people to understand, like, really kind of like the day-to-day operations of being a Division 1 college coach, because there is so many moving parts to it that people have no idea, about. So obviously you're a team of 2. You do social media. You got obviously your compliance stuff, administrative stuff. What now? This is probably, and you probably haven't even hit on where I would assume you probably spend the majority of your time, and that's recruiting.
It is a lot of conversation. Recruiting's hard because it's not like a block of your day. It's not like, oh, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock I'm doing this, right? It's like, oh, this person emailed me, this person messaged me on social media. We've got this phone call. We have students that come obviously for visits, like official and unofficial visits, but at least for the system of our program and how it works, it's a very small part of our recruiting process, right? And you probably know this also.
Yeah.
When we're in the middle of season, like this week we leave, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, things going on during the week. We leave Thursday for Missouri, right? For us to have just like one of those practices, not necessarily interrupted, but just feel a little bit different because we've got to recruit in. It's vital because we got 3 days of practice this week and then we're gone.
Yeah.
And last week we had 4 days of practice and then we were gone on competition. And so like we get 2 hours a day, less than 5 days a week at this point because we're competing, alone in the room with our athletes. And to be able to have to split that attention between our kids now that we're supposed to take care of, I say kids, our young women, versus, people who may or may not come here or may just be, we don't really know their interests. It's hard to divide. So yeah, we've got recruits that come, and yes, hosting them is time consuming because it's not in your 9 to 5. It's like, oh, well, we're going to dinner tonight. Like, we're not eating dinner at home. Or, oh, we're going this trip to the airport to pick up this person. Right.
And just put an itinerary together and putting, accommodations together for them, their parents. And there's so many moving parts to it. It's crazy.
There is so many moving parts to it. And then there's just the conversations alone, right? The amount of people that we have here on campus is few, honestly, that will host here. But everyone else has questions. Their coaches have questions. Their parents have questions. Some of them are very, very interested. Some of them maybe aren't interested at all, but we don't know until we feel it out, right? So, yeah, no, you're right in it. I think this is still something that I've got, like, I'll have my few that I'm like, oh, I think we want this one here. And so I'll head the conversation. But this is something that I have to be really honest about. Paulina handles so well. And I think it's because she's just got a rhythm of it, right? And she's the head coach of the program. She's the face of the program. And so that's normally someone's first point of contact, right? And then maybe she'll pass them on to me sometimes. But I mean, the amount of I leave and go home, but on her drive home, she's on the phone every single day with a recruit every single day. So
I remember when I started in that aspect of the programs I was that first time at Cal Poly when I could actually recruit, and it was a little overwhelming at the beginning just because I didn't realize I was used to coming to practice, and then I basically because we haven't even touched on this part, like the actual development side,
the actual wrestling part,
the individual lessons in the morning and the practice in the afternoon, and that type of stuff. We haven't even touched on that type of stuff yet. So I was used to that was my role. I was strictly like at Chattanooga. Heath Esslinger said, "Okay, you're wrestling. You're in charge of 75% of the practices. Every now and then, myself, Rocco will run one every now and then, but nope, you're moving. You're it. You're moving forward. You do it." So then I did it for the first 3 years. John Cerritos came in the 4th year, so him and I kind of really started sharing some stuff then, because from a training perspective, we were very, very much on the same page. I didn't really get into the recruiting side until I went and worked for him at Cal Poly. And now I had to start making phone calls. I had to start logging people into ARM software. I learned start setting up visits. I had to start, and not that I didn't want to do any of that but I didn't want to do any of that. When it came to recruiting, I wanted to talk to the kids and I wanted to show up at their house and chat it up with their parents and hang out. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to do any of that type of stuff. So I was like, I don't want to know. I don't want to do this. Come on.
Okay, but you said ARMS, which I'm sure no one knows what that means, right? No. You think that you just get to have a conversation and it goes well and that's it. No, you record the conversation. You record how many times you've had contact with this person. Have I contacted them in person? Have they been on campus? Have I contacted them at their competition? Have we had contact via email? Have we had phone calls? Everything has to be documented.
Doctor's notes.
Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy. It's almost, I understand it, but whenever you're the one that has to do it, it doesn't make sense.
So I would think that would be so that all that could translate over. So if Paulina reads your notes, she can lock that down and see what's already been communicated or whatever with each athlete. And that way y'all can it's just very clear, right?
Hardly, but it's more for compliance, really, right? You're only allowed for recruiting during different parts of the season. You're only allowed contact with a recruit so many times in so many ways. And so if you're not documenting it, there's no way they can.
That's true. I didn't think about the documentation or that tying in with it as well or as much. Yeah.
It's so much. And I'm
sounds like so much fun.
It is a lot. I could almost see is getting to know Kenya as well as I have, since we did the podcast together. She seems like she's very, very organized. She sits on top of things and she's really, that's the way that's what I would get from you. When you compare the two of us, you are 100% more like on top of stuff for me. I'd almost look at you like she would almost be like the version, like Sacred Heart's version of Rocco Mansueto was that guy at Chattanooga for us. He was the brains behind the whole operation, and he was had everything organized. He was very, very systematic. Todd Shavrin was the same way at Cal Poly. And these guys and Chris Chunuma, very, very, very good at that type of stuff when I was at Cal Poly. And I could see Kenya really being on top of stuff. Am I right or wrong, Kenya?
I'm so flattered that you think that of me, but you are wrong on some.
No, oh my goodness, is that the head coach?
No, she just hadn't hit her stride yet. Okay, give her some time. She's been in there 4 months.
Thanks, Andy. She's right. There's a lot of it that you just learn through rhythm, and because Paulina's been it and done it by herself, right? There's small things that I don't even know to check for until she's like, "Hey, did you double check this?" Or, "Hey, don't forget the deadline to change the name on the flights is this day." And I'm like, "Oh shoot, I would have missed it."
Yeah.
But I'm sure the only way you learn though, and the reason she's probably so on top of it is because she's probably messed up and it really hurts. If you don't, I know it's so small, but I missed the deadline to change the name on a flight for this girl that got injured last week. Yeah. And so now we paid for a whole flight and we can't even take anyone to go. That's kind of a big deal. And when you learn it the hard way, I'm sure you don't forget.
You have a budget, right? That you have to do all these things. So when you took that out, you took somebody else away from doing, it just never ends at that.
Yeah, that's another aspect of it right there. Just travel planning is another thing.
And honestly, even though I haven't said it yet, Andy, to answer your question, that is actually the bulk of my days and we also are kind of in a unique situation in the fact that we're here in the Northeast, but most of our competition is like Midwest. So we're
Yeah.
not taking buses or vans
Oh,
hardly
wow.
anywhere.
Yeah.
We might take a bus. We'll take a bus to New York to catch a flight at JFK, so we can fly somewhere else, where we then have rental cars that we have to pick up for however long. And so it seems so small, and it seems like, again, maybe other programs have someone who is specifically dedicated to this, but just
I
where we're
do.
at, it's like that's my job. That's Coach Kenya, Coach
Wow.
Kenya, aka travel agent. I think that's
Yeah.
what I'm
One day, maybe like, maybe one day you guys get your own travel person that does that, so that you're not. But I bet Paulina is like so happy to have you there, and somebody that will take on doing stuff like this without fear or visible fear. And,
So fear.
yes, ma'am. I got it. And then just
Yeah.
go,
Exactly.
internally feel different, but do it. Right. And so how did all this come about? When did Paulina reach out to you?
Paulina reached out to me. You know who, ironically, Hatch could probably answer this question. I think Hatch was the first person I told. I think before I talked to my parents about it or anything. I think so.
I knew I was one of the first ones. I didn't know I was the first. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
This was in like maybe June or July. No, probably June.
June. That was
Probably
June.
June. Yeah, when we
Did you
first
know each other prior?
said yes. Paulina was actually
She's one of
the
your
assistant
coaches, wasn't
coach
she?
at Campbellsville when I was there for 2
Okay.
years. So like my sophomore and junior year, she was there, and then she left to start this program at Sacred Heart. And so, yes, we knew each other. One of those years that I wrestled for her, I was injured, so she really only coached me for a year. But I remember when she left Campbellsville, she told me like, "Hey, after you graduate, like if you ever end up wanting to coach, like I don't know where I'll be by then, but I would love to have you on my staff at some point." And I remember just being like, oh, "Okay, haha, that's nice, whatever. Yeah, I'll miss you too." Like, and then what? 3 years later, I guess 4 years. She just gave me a call one day and was like, "Hey, I heard you
She
moved back
knew.
to Tennessee. Like, what's going on?" I was just like, "Oh, I started this club," and we just started. I just thought she was calling to catch up, and then she was like, "Well, I've been looking for an assistant."
Then the big questions start. How you doing? Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Want to come coach? That's awesome though.
And I
I didn't
had,
know-
Andy, no
awesome.
intention on making a career out of coaching. I was supposed to start
Yep.
physical therapy school shortly after. I was supposed to start in August, I
Mm.
think. And I mean, so it was a lot to consider. And this wasn't the first coaching opportunity that kind of came my way, but it was the first one that really caught my attention. And I was just like, I knew I would love working with Paulina, just knowing her personality as from Campbellsville, and then getting to watch her program from a distance. And now that I'm here and I'm actually working for her, I still stand by and I tell people all the time. Like, they're like, "How is it?" And I'm like, I don't think I could have found a better head coach to work under and learn from. Like, she's got it together. Her expectations for our team are high, and she holds all the athletes to those standards with such
Love it.
rigid discipline, but also like this underlying level of like care and empathy that no matter how harsh she is to you, like you want to listen and you want to do it, and she has your back, and that she's going to put in the extra hours, and she's going to find the extra answers and call the extra people. And I don't know how many head coaches there are that do what she does, and so I'm just so happy to learn from her. And she's unlike me. She's very organized. She double checks everything. She's got a beautiful system to how everything runs, and I'm just
Wow.
if it's in the plans for me to be a head coach of a program someday, this is the best place I could have been to prepare me. I mean, I really think so.
She did a bunch of she spoke a few times at the coaches leadership, the NWCA Coaches Leadership Academy this summer. So that's where I actually first met her. But it was fun watching her. I love being around all these strong women, right? So I was like, and I knew she started at Missouri Valley. We'll point that out. And just gonna throw anytime there's a Mobile person, I'm gonna point it out.
There you go.
And if they're from Tennessee originally, I mean, which all of our kids will be, but anyhow, no, that's you. The way you described her seems like 100% accurate. And I remember thinking,
you can vouch for me then, right? When you meet Paulina Biega, you're scared no matter what. You're scared. And the recruits say that too.
good, clean, straight face.
I'm scared of her. I'm like, me too. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get that little intimidation factor, right? Like, because she's so like clean and like got it, she's got it together. You can tell. But I also, because I believe some of the, I'm pretty sure some of the athletes were there. Those are the people that were with her mostly. and as well as some of the other coaches. And there's certain people that you can really tell that their athletes or their assistants or whoever that's there, that they really care about them and they really care about their athletes and what they're doing. I'm super impressed with her. That's why it made me so happy whenever I saw that that's where you were going. Cause I was like, cause I can tell you got it together, you know, like without like being on the podcast every week with you. So, now I have a question too. Isn't Sacred Heart rather a like Ivy League school, but it's not technically, or is it technically?
No, technically it's not Ivy League, but I mean, the academic courses are competitive and they've got some very highly ranked, but they've got one of the highest ranked nursing programs, at least in the NCAA. You're right, hard to get into. And this Hatch, like you said, recruiting is probably a big part of our job.
Make it harder.
Yeah. No, I mean, it almost makes it easier though, because people weed themselves out, right?
Yeah.
And so even though you can get accepted into Sacred Heart with a lower GPA, our standard on the team is that we won't recruit anyone below a 3.5, because if you can't manage that in high school, we know that you're going to come here and sink. And that's not our job, is to bring people here to fail. And so it is very academically strenuous. Yes.
I was going to say too, I feel
like you have to stay in your lane. You can't, no matter how bad you want to run at wrestling, how bad you want to wrestle there, you just can't set them up for success just because you want to be on your team so bad that you put them in a position where they're not only wrestling like with the hardest at the hardest level there is,
the hardest level too. Yeah.
But now they've got to compete against really the same standards in the classroom as you're asking for in your athletically. It's just and then when you have that type of competition, I mean, in the classroom, it's just hard. I mean, you're competing against kids that's all they're doing. They're studying that specific nursing degree, and they're all in on that. The same way as they're all in on the wrestling, and now you're asking somebody that's all in on the wrestling to be all in on. It's hard. Yeah. So, but it shrinks that recruiting pool. You're right. It does shrink the recruiting pool down. So,
but that can be in a good way too, right? I mean, I think also on a retention level, the people that qualify to be there and stay there are it seems like, you can answer this, Kenya, but that they're more likely to stay and graduate, possibly.
They mean business, right? If you're going to go through what it takes to be on our team and also to go to school here, like you thought about it.
Yeah.
And so they've got it together better than I did in college. I have to admit, I don't tell them that obviously, but we'll be getting home at like midnight. They've been wrestling all day. This was last weekend. We finished in Adrian, Michigan. We finished wrestling at 5:00. We had to drive an hour to the airport to catch an 8 o'clock flight. We landed at 11:30. We got back here at 1 a.m. And I fell asleep on the bus. But when I got up, I've got girls in the back of our bus working on homework.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been me. I wouldn't have made it.
That's the thing. When your recruiting pool shrinks like that, when that high of academic standards it comes into play. I mean, and nothing against the other universities, but I mean, you just get a higher level of responsibility already built, already built into the athlete. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not saying that there's not issues and problems with them. They're college kids and they're 19 through 22-year-old kids, right. And you're going to have issues, whatever. But there's just a little bit different level of responsibility there, built in. When you get somebody that's that concerned about their academics. Yeah. So that's just my experience with it.
And you're right, Andy. It does. I mean, it does help because these aren't kids that we have to babysit. Well, they still need help, right? Like they fail and they need correction, but we don't have to hold hopefully the expectation is we don't have to hold their hand because they're coming to us pretty, high, they're successful kids already. Like
they've already met some other things, goals. And so they get a little bit more of how that really hard work was. These kids are taking AP and beyond, whatever they call the courses now in high school. Then they're already lining up to be there and they want to be at that school too. Right. It's not just that they want to wrestle, but they want to wrestle at your school because they want that degree. And do they have a physical therapy program there?
Physical therapy program. It's a doctor.
Want to double up on that? Get a little extra preschooling in there. It looks really nice with that title on there, though.
Maybe if I'm really nice, the professors will only look in the window. It's probably about
You probably maybe thought about that before you took this job, and then all of a sudden now you're into it. And you're like,
oh, you're
when would I have any time to do this? When would I?
especially hard things like that. But I have full faith that they would get to see you and know you around campus and like what you're doing there. Because I know that Paulina's already been doing an amazing job. And now to have somebody like you there helping her, like, I can't wait to see what your ladies do. And speaking of which, how many girls do you guys have this year?
Yeah, let's get into the wrestling side real quick. We got about 5 minutes left. Let's get into the wrestling side.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have some wrestling questions actually.
Good. 'Cause this is the stuff that I like.
Oh, okay, here we go.
We've got 30 girls on our roster right now.
Wow.
Nice. So for the people out there, right? For these young ladies and gentlemen that are sitting and listening, as an athlete, what do you think is the difference between high school and college, like practices and being on a college team, other than the obvious you're away from home and having to self-regulate? What do you think are some of the transitions for some of these girls? What's the harder ones?
Yeah, I think this varies a lot because, again, especially on the girls and women's side, we've got so much like variance in what type of programs these girls are coming from.
Yep.
Right. And so for some of them, their first practice at SHU might be the most intense practice they've ever been through, right? Because some of them have been wrestling, for 10 years. Some of them have been wrestling for 2.
Yeah.
And they made it, right? But because of that, what they come into our room knowing is very variant. And so there's still a lot of education because we need everyone to be on the same level. Also, keep in mind that for some of these girls, they might not have very much freestyle wrestling experience, right? They might have been the best high school wrestler from the state of California, but they've only wrestled, maybe 3 or 4 freestyle tournaments, which is an accurate reality for a lot of women.
That's true. I never thought of that.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of education and a lot of teaching, which is part of what I love about teaching women's college wrestling. But it's intense though. And you either keep up or you get left behind because, the top girls in our room, right? Like there's 30 on the roster. There's 10 varsity spots in the duel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those 10 versus the top 10 versus the bottom 10, there could be a pretty big gap between them. But our program is designed for these top 10 to be able to, All-American at the national tournament. And so if you're in the bottom 10 and you can't keep up, you got to figure it out or feel silly.
Yeah.
And so in that way, it is kind of, I don't want to say cutthroat because our team especially has got a great culture. They're very encouraging of each other. Mm-hmm. But it is just the reality. Everyone's got a goal there. And so if you're not at the same level of these people trying to reach this goal, then you've got to figure out a way to catch up. And it's not going to be us two coaches, staying behind to help you figure it out a lot of times.
Well, that's where they have to, especially when you're running a practice and you can't really cater to the lowest skill set, right? Because then you're taken away from the upper ones. And so I can see that would be where the athletes would probably need to be putting in time whenever, the wrestling room isn't open to practice.
Right? Because we spend 2 hours a week with you guys. And then everyone on our team has worked hard to come in for at least one-on-one a week, right? But that one-on-one might be 15 minutes of one of us saying like, hey, this is what I want you to change. And let me see you do it a few times. Now I'm going to leave and I want you to stay and hit 30 reps or 50 reps. But no one's in here to babysit you. Like I got a compliance meeting to run to. I'm going to tell you to do your 50 reps and I'm going to leave.
But that's life too, right? That's like I think I always point out like life skills that people learn through wrestling, and you have to hold yourself accountable and you have to learn how to do that. Right. And if you want to improve and get better, get that job, get that spot, varsity spot, you've got to do more than the other people are doing. And you've got to,
that's a wrestling match in general. I mean,
right. It's just wrestling in general. Yeah.
I can't go out there and if she's showing a girl how to finish a particular single leg position.
Well, and you can't depend on the coach to do
it. I mean, she's got to figure it out at some point in time. It's the way it works.
Right. Right.
That's part of being in college wrestling anymore. I mean, I didn't even consider that would be like two things there. One, the difference of, I guess, of not really necessarily skill level, but experience level, just when it comes just because of the fact that, like I said, you guys wrestle freestyle, which is awesome, but I mean, like you said, a lot of girls, I mean, some of them, depending on what state they come from, they may not have a
Just
freestyle
been
program
thinking.
at all. No, they might have been wrestling folk style for the last 4 years, and now they just got to figure out and learn a whole new style of wrestling. That's interesting.
Yeah. I have a question because how long do we have, Mike? I mean, are we getting close?
Well, Brodie's in our next guest is in the.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a talker. You guys ask small questions.
So I have just one more last question. For me, is that what would be your advice to a high school girl wrestler right now who wants to wrestle in college? And I'm talking anybody from, because I do think because there are so many schools, there's lots of opportunities, right, for all skill sets at this point. But what would be your advice to an athlete who wants to wrestle in college but doesn't know how to like put themselves out there, get seen by people? What would be your recommendation?
I have two pieces of advice that are going to seem like contradictory, but maybe it's about timing, I guess. Because my first piece of advice is to keep your head down and master your craft and be the best at what you do, right? I think a lot of times kids will think too early on, like maybe their freshman, sophomore year of high school, they're worried about what college coaches are looking at them or maybe where they're going to wrestle in college. But I mean, you got to get there first, right? You got to be the best at what you do in order to be able to make it, to succeed in a program, right? Like you said, there's so many programs all over the spectrum. You can find a spot somewhere, right? But if you've got big goals, like you got to decide like what's going to make you happy. Do I just want to be on a team, or do I want to go to college and do I want to have some success?
Yeah.
Options are there for both, right? So my first piece of advice, just keep your head down and wrestle and learn and have fun and get good at what you do and learn how to do the extra work when no one's telling you to do it. That's my first piece of advice. But when it's time, right? Maybe your junior, hardly, especially your senior year of high school, more like it, right? Don't be scared to put yourself out there and don't be scared to verbalize what you have to bring to the table, right? Because I think some people will wait for a coach to come knocking at their door, and it might happen, but it might not, right? And so if there's a program that you're interested in, don't be scared to reach out and don't be scared to tell a coach why you'd be an asset, because we're trying to figure it out, right? We don't know you. We can maybe watch some of your matches, on Flow Wrestling, or if you send us some film, okay? But in addition to that, like what kind of person are we bringing onto our team? How are they going to add to our culture, right? What kind of teammate are they going to be? How are they going to respond to criticism, right? We want to know like what type of person you are. And the only way we know is if you tell us. And so those are my two pieces of advice. Keep your head down and work hard, but when it's time, like reach out. Don't be scared to put yourself out there and let coaches know who you are and what you have to bring.
I like it. Thank you.
Right there. That's the golden advice right there. I actually had one question. Considering I know I have a pretty good understanding of the Division I rules. So I know that college coaches can come back in every summer and coach.
I know where this is going.
State national teams. So I'm just trying to get some sort of commitment here that we can get Kenya Sloan back on our national team this year. As Team Tennessee. Saying, I know the rules. I know it's 100% legal. I know that.
I just know that Southwest has a cheap rate.
So just saying.
And I think
Southwest. I don't need an answer unless you want to give an answer. But I don't need an answer today. But I want something. Would you strongly consider doing that again?
I will strongly consider. I loved it, and I love being it. I miss my Tennessee people, and so if there's any chance that I can make it happen, I would love to.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we love that. I mean,
what's the closest airport?
Listen, you're talking about a dude that travels a lot. I'll figure out the flight, the airport thing.
Logistics guy. I got it. I like it.
Yeah, we will get that taken care of. Now, speaking of Tennessee, you have something coming up here in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
What you got going on
next week?
Oh, it is. Oh my God.
Dude, next week, Andy.
It is next week. Oh my
goodness. I'm so excited to come home. Yeah. So next Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, right? Black Friday. All of my high school in Knoxville friends, if you do not have a place to train the day after Thanksgiving, I surely hope you will find yourself in West Knoxville at KWA. Hey.
You already know.
I love it. This is Knoxville Girls Wrestling Club. This is my club right now in Knoxville, Andy.
I don't have a shirt.
We'll have to get you one. Don't worry. We'll get you one. But yes, I will be back. We're doing a co-ed camp, so we'll have
that shows like the whole like I always have like boys wrestling stuff on when I go.
This is as weak as I could.
When I go to yoga classes and stuff like that. No, but I'll bring the girls. I'm like, oh, that's a nice shirt. Like,
maybe we demand swag.
It's a nice shirt.
You know what we need, Mike? We need Sacred Heart shirts.
Yeah. Yes. I think
That's what we
I need to bring some of those back to Tennessee with her. I think that'd be a good idea.
I have a solid guess that both Mike and I are size medium.
There we go.
Solid
Matters
guess.
to you at all.
Yes. I like it.
Am I right?
Yeah, we'll see what I can fit in that carry-on.
Right.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's awesome. Good deal. Kenya, thank you so much for
Thank you.
we could have spent the whole podcast with you.
I know.
That was awesome.
I missed it.
What we'll do, here's what we'll do. I promise the listeners, because I tell you what, this will be a very, very listened to, especially I'm going to start pumping the podcast. I shouldn't have done this the last whatever year. I need to continue to promote them after we're done, so people can click on them afterwards. But I'm telling you what, this one's going to be listened to a lot. Actually, we got a lot of listeners on right now. This one will be listened to a lot because this has to do with college. I mean, who doesn't learn something?
Male, female, whatever level you're at, whatever level you want to go to. I agree. It's
all the same. It's all great information, and it's the same thing across the board. Whether you're NIA, Division 1, 2, 3, or whatever. I mean, she just laid it out on what type of person they want on their team. They don't want anybody there that's causing any drama, and it's going to be too much work. They got enough work on their plate right now.
I don't care how good you are. If you're bringing us drama, we don't want you.
I think is it fair to point out that people or coaches, I'm going to word this nicely, how you can even be a really good athlete, but if there's behavioral issues, whether it's, I don't know, there's a plethora of that right there, that can make a coach not want to fool with you at their campus and make you be a part of their program. No matter if you would bring more wins to their plate, it'll be more trouble and more of a stain on the group.
Yep. We don't have the time for it.
Yeah.
No,
it's important to act
on making someone good at wrestling instead of making someone learn how to be compliant to rules.
Absolutely. Well, Katie, we're going to have you on again after the season's over. Do a little season recap, how your first season went down.
Probably have some gray hair by then or something.
Yeah, well, hey, come on now, easy. It's okay.
I'm too young, not yet.
Awesome, Kenya. Thanks so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kenya.
Good seeing you. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, she's got D1 coach written all over. Like
I love it. I agree. Whenever I saw that she was going up there, I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was the first one she talked to about it, but I remember when she told me, and my first thought was like, shoot, there we go. That's lost her. because it's just too good of an opportunity. It provides like just all the stuff that she's talking about, like there, as far as like all the different things on a day-to-day basis that job has, what comes about that job. It's just an invaluable experience. And what she was doing here, I mean, she was making a huge impact on our, especially up there in Knoxville with that club. And she would have had, I mean, financially, it probably might have made better sense to stay there and do it. But at the end of the day, she's going to get
a great experience.
All this experience though. And then she's going to be able to compound that on later into a club. And she's going to make it up on the back end.
So many options, right? So many options. So I think it's like, I love in life getting, experience in different situations, right? Like you asking me to do this was a bit.
There you go. I thought I started a podcast. So all right. Well, I'll tell you what, we can chat it up all night long, but we got to get our guest on here because I know he's one that these academic people, the academic schools that they that they would look at, because this kid right here is an absolute rock star. So I'll bring him on here in a second, but so Brodie Melzoni is he's one of our Young Guns kids, and this guy right here, I'm telling you, he has been. I've got to make sure he's ready to roll because I know we went over a little bit with him, but he's been at it he's been in our club he's been coming, different instruction and stuff like that, different things I've been doing in Middle Tennessee for the past 3 years. And just his level of improvement has been just through the roof. I mean, he's just done such a fantastic job. And I'm super proud of him. But Nolensville High School, and he, he's well on his way to doing some really good things. Let me get him on here. I've got to get his
terminal.
Not yet. I've got to get him his camera on. There we go. So I'll bring him on as soon as he gets his camera on. But I mean, like I said, I tell you what, there he is. I'll brag on him when I got on stage. How's that?
Okay.
There he is. Had my man to put his camera on, man. We can see you from back here backstage, Brodie. So I didn't to make sure here. I was going to brag on you while you're getting your camera on, but I was like, you know what? This whole bragging session is going to take a little too long. So, Brodie, I don't know if you've seen this lady around at the different Middle Tennessee stuff. This is Andi Jones. She's my co-host. She's the head girls coach at Blackman. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Brodie Melzoni from Nolensville High School in Young Guns, Nashville. I got to throw that little plug in there. And this guy right here, I'm telling you what, like I was telling everybody before, I mean, I am incredibly, incredibly proud of this young man. I'm telling you, he has been doing just an amazing job. You know, he's one of those kids, you know, you get some kids that come into programs and they, you know, and they just got it, or they've been wrestling on the national level for a while, and, you know, they have that type of experience and stuff. But then you also get the kids that, you know, just kind of work for everything. And that's been Brodie. I'm telling you, he's literally been, I mean, not only obviously 100% all in at Nolensville and what they got going on, which they got a lot going on. I'm just telling you what, watch out for that team this year, because they really have a solid squad this year, no question about it. But just with everything from our club perspective, what he's been doing, you know, just he doesn't miss, you know, and that's what is crazy, because I get certain kids in our club that they just keep getting better. They keep getting better, and people start taking notes. So what's this kid do? What's this kid do? Well, I mean, it's not my coaching, and it's not Tanner Smith's coaching, it's not Phil's coaching, it's not the rest of my staff, Shipman's coaching. I mean, I think we got good, you know, people leading the charge there, but it's them showing up and making a commitment, you know, and putting the extra work in. And this is one of the shining examples in my room. I mean, he doesn't miss. You see him at all our camps, all of our practices. I mean, he's there on Sundays. Wednesdays, he goes and practices at Nolensville, and then he's at our young guns practice at night after he probably does some studying, and he carries what's your grade point average?
The weighted is a 4.73 and the unweighted is a 4.
GPA. So I mean, it's like,
is that a thing?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, you took mine multiplied by.
Got out at 4 with the AP courses.
In high school, I'm not quite sure if it's 4.7 yet, but that's what. But this that's like Brodie Melzoni for you. I mean, like I said, he doesn't
awesome.
Rarely misses practices, rarely misses this competitions. He's at everything, and that's why we have him in the podcast right now, because this guy right here, he has had just an amazing fall season from a competition standpoint. Grappler, placed a grappler, Michigan grappler, placed at preseason nationals, All-American, and then most recently at the P&L tournament, we got 5th P&L tournament. Yeah. So that's 3 like preseason tournaments right there for the national level that really has more than you know, just
showed up
for. Absolutely. So Brodie, let's break down like what's been going on this fall. Welcome to our podcast, by the way. Like that long introduction and brag on you?
No, that was nice.
Okay, good. I got you, man. I got you. But
you noticed the shirt, Mike? Have you not noticed this shirt yet?
Yeah, that's it right there. He knows. He's just warming. He's just buttering up.
He's just sugaring
up. Get the plug in.
I got it. I mean, I've noticed these subtle things. Okay.
She does. She's very intuitive there. You got to watch out for her. So, so let's talk back at preseason nationals. That's one I would consider that. I would consider there's 3 tournaments in the preseason that are pretty legit. And if you place at them, then you're, you know, and we're talking preseason nationals, USA Wrestling, obviously Super 32. And then P&L, which, you know, those of you I went over a little bit of what the P&L is on our podcast before, but you know, P&L is basically a culmination of 36 of the best clubs around the country. The very, very top level ones like your Askrens, your Cormiers, your Young Guns, Pennsylvania, your Izzy Styles, and all that type of stuff, all put into one competition. So basically, we got 3 those 3 competitions right there. The first one that you placed at was preseason nationals, and that's where you kind of really, I think, kind of broke through. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And what and how did you get yourself prepared to? I mean, because like I said before, when I say he's been at everything, he's goes to all. I mean, he's been literally going to like every competition, whether it's been Virginia Beach, Fargo, Southeast regionals, this, that, boom, boom, everything, and never really, not having the greatest of results at all of them, but then all of a sudden, bam, catapults to placing at the preseason nationals. What was different in your preparation, so to speak, or your preparation for that tournament as compared to the other ones that you went to?
Well, the whole summer, the off season, really, I was wrestling up. I was wrestling 190. I was up pretty high, and I wasn't like a really filled out 190. So that was the first tournament where I went down to 75. And that's probably where I'm going to wrestle this year in the season. So I feel better at this weight, and it's easier to move guys around, get to my offense, stuff like that. So I felt like that was a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that now you moving down to 75, obviously, I know that in the off season you spend a lot of time in the weight room with Coach Bryce.
Yes, sir.
And really kind of got yourself, more, really kind of plugged in from a strength conditioning standpoint. Doing that, getting that weight down at in a good way. Did that off-season weightlifting and all that type of stuff really kind of help you kind of catapult as well, you think?
Yeah, so that training over there at Legacy at Carbon, Coach Bryce, Coach Mark, those
There
guys.
we go. Shout out there, huh? Legacy. There we go. Don't say I never say it. Don't say I never give you guys shout outs. So like the fifth one I given. Mark Lobliner and Bryce, good people. Okay, go ahead.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, but that helped you out a lot, though, huh?
Put a lot of weight on. I was 157 last year. I was a pretty light 57.
Yeah.
I could have probably made 50 by the end of the year. And like I said, I got up. I think my highest weight was like 195 a couple months ago. So
little.
Yeah, that kind of the plan is to put some, some really, really good muscle on the off season and
then lean it out.
And then
that was my goal. That's what I was going for.
Yeah. Focus on building it first, then leaning it out.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good. But the thing is, though, is that not only were you a regular in the weight room and really cranking it out from a strength conditioning standpoint, but I mean, you didn't miss wrestling practice either. I mean, it was like you're there all the time. Every training camp we had, everything there. How do you, because you get like a misconception, kids like, and we're going to probably spend a lot of time talking about your off season, just so you know. Just because, I think that all the work that you did in the off season is 100% the reason why you're finding success right now. Just all the stuff that you've done, not like I said, not our club, not, Bryce, Mark, it was something that you made the commitment to do. But a lot of people think, well, I'm either going to bulk up and get really big and strong, but I can't wrestle as much during the off season because that's when I got to watch my weight and all that type of stuff. So you can't really merge the two. How did you merge the two, together? So are you getting the maximum benefit out of each one of them?
So really in the summer, it was a lot really. So I didn't have a ton of free time. The summer was more than it is for school right now. During school, it's kind of hard between my classes. I'm in like 3 AP classes. So between that and trying to get to wrestling practices over at Young Guns and at the high school and at the gym at Carbon, it's tough. But in the summer, I just tried to show up every day, try to get to every practice. Sometimes I had to leave one a little early, get to the other. Just tried to make it to everyone I could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is it hard, like gaining, like putting the muscle on and and gaining the size and so forth like that, but at the same time, kind of still navigating through the whole off-season wrestling thing?
Yeah, it was tough. I felt really heavy, actually, a lot of the time. You might think it's like not noticeable, but it's definitely noticeable. Feel like slower, heavier. I felt like bloated a lot during practice, but feel better now. Feel good at the weight I'm at.
Good. Yeah. It takes a lot to build mass. People don't. I know a lot of females are like, I don't want to put on bulk. I'm like, it's not that easy. It's not that easy, trust me. So it seems like you're like very consistent in so many places in your life, right? And that's why these things happen, right? You put in there in the room. You aren't the kid that necessarily came in that was like the all win everything, whatever. But I think there's a lot more to learn from the person that doesn't get that instant everything. that because it teaches you even more life skills as far as perseverance and learning that like it's going to be hard to meet your goal, but you've persevered and now you're showing out, so
Sure.
that's kudos to you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, I think you hit on like a really good point there, Andy, as far as consistent. I mean, if I were, that's probably one of the best descriptions that I would have of Brodie is he's very, very consistent. And you can see that he shows up like in all aspects. He shows up in the wrestling part of it. He shows up in the strength conditioning part of it, because correct me if I'm wrong, like the stuff at Carbon and Legacy, that was actually even in addition to what you guys do as a team at Nolensville.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, so
Yeah.
this is like a huge shout out to like kids out there that you find a lot of different excuses. And I've been around this game for a long time.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of excuses why you can't be here. You can't do this. You can't be this. You can't do this. Oh, I got academics here. I got this going on. They got this going on. Listen, this is the perfect example right here of there is no excuses. I mean, Brodie goes to his high school practices at Nolensville and comes to the extra supplemental practices at Young Guns. Goes to his normal, I mean, weightlifting workouts for his Nolensville High School wrestling team, and then goes to supplemental weightlifting and strength conditioning workouts at Legacy at Carbon. I mean, and then on top of that carries a 4.7 GPA. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
He's going to be president.
do I need to say anything else, Andy?
No, I think take note to the young people listening, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I
it's
think-
just, that's the thing. We live in a world where there's a lot of excuses, and then kids, it's all about, I think at the end of the day, it's all about priorities, and he's prioritized his academics and his wrestling over everything in his life. And now he's starting to reap the rewards.
It seems like you saw what you wanted and you listened to the people that gave you advice on what to do, likely. Meaning, I don't know, Mike, I know you can say this too. I tell my kids, get in every space you can to wrestle. If there's a spot that you can add addition to, do that. If you can get in with a strength and conditioning person, do that. Like there's all these things. The people that are doing well, that's what they do, right? They put in all this extra hours when people are sleeping and people are dipping out because it's a holiday weekend. But there's always the reasons, right? And it sounds like you aren't making as many excuses for that. What grade are you in?
I'm a junior this year.
You're a junior. Okay, cool. Are you wanting to wrestle in college at all?
Yes, ma'am.
That makes me happy.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think you should. I don't know if you got to listen to us talking to Kenya Sloan just a little bit, but Mike, on a recruiting level, this is the kid you're looking for, right? Like he makes the grades, so he's going to do that. You don't have to worry about that. I doubt you get in trouble, or you're hiding it really well. And
stay out.
Yeah. And now on top of that, now you're starting to place at these national tournaments.
Yeah, so you got that
level, and that's something that people can really kind of look at you and check off your box. Say, okay, yeah, this kid can wrestle against the other kids in the country. So that getting back to that preseason nationals tournament, going into there, obviously, I think you've been to enough national level competitions, in the past. Did you feel more prepared going into that one as you did going to the others?
I did. A real big thing was I like a lot of the past tournaments, especially last summer, when I was going to like Fargo and Virginia Beach. It was kind of my first time going to tournaments that big. So like I usually don't get nervous really, but like at tournaments that big, it's kind of hard not to get nervous. And like I feel like I kind of wrestle slower. But at this tournament especially, I was calm. I was ready, and I think that's what kind of prepared me well.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that second experience, and we were talking about this last week about how the more you do these larger level competitions, the more comfortable you are competing at them because you are used to this giant room packed with people, however many mats on the floor, and it's intimidating if you haven't been in that, right? And so you got to get your game right walking in, that mental prep of how you prepare yourself before you walk out on that mat, and that'll evolve, right? How do you think you prepare? What changed your mindset? Why was this a little bit easier this time as far as the adjustment?
Like you said, just that second experience. Like I went to so Fargo twice. That Fargo is probably the biggest one. A bunch of people there. I had won a good bit of matches at Fargo this last year. I think I was 4-2 in Greco, 2-2 freestyle. So I got to wrestle a lot in that atmosphere, and I kind of just got used to it.
Yeah.
and just kind of treat it like practice always.
Because it is,
Yeah.
right?
And that's
It's all-
that's a really interesting point there, Brodie, that you're bringing up, because I mean, a lot of times, especially in the space that I'm in with the club perspective, you get a lot of kids that might be, they're kind of somewhat interested in going to wrestle in the national tournament, and they're like, I don't know, maybe I'll go there and I'll go with two, and that I don't know if it's going to be the best experience. Then you'll have a parent say, I don't want to send them all the way there for just to go and do that type of thing. You've been to quite a few tournaments and haven't done really that particularly well, right? The national,
yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, but from what I'm hearing though, those kind of helps you prepare, and get yourself ready and get you more familiarized with those type of big tournament settings, to where now you're able to go and like, you know what, I've been here before, I can compete. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, sir. That's about right.
Yeah, because it's it's those tournaments, you don't just find immediate success right out the jump. You got to go in, you got to take your licks and just keep going and make adjustments and coming back and doing it.
It's kind of like when you start wrestling and you have to have that period of time where you just get your little tail handed to you for a good period of time, right? That you learn in those places, right? And so, like I said, I think there's more to gain for the person that keeps doing it that way than the person that just shows up and doesn't have any difficulty, because at some point they will, right? And they won't be ready for it. And you're like, I'm seasoned for this at this point, right? So it's harder to shake you, is what I would think.
For sure. For sure. Well, good. Preseason nationals, like I said, man, had a great showing there, and then went to the P&L tournament. And that one, there's just that's the one thing about competing in a league where you have all these like high level clubs. I mean, the majority of kids that are there are going to be pretty, either really well credentialed, or they're going to at least be very, very well coached. And man, you wrestled lights out, in my opinion. I mean, you had that one kid against one the Askren kid that was pretty doggone tough.
Yeah, he ended up winning the whole tournament. So
yeah, he was pretty good. He's pretty tough. But other than that, I mean, everybody else, I mean, you really, I mean, like I said, handled very, very well. What was I guess you went to the first P&L tournament with us, so I think you enjoyed your time
in Indiana.
Yep. And then but then we went back for the fall championships. What was your biggest takeaway from that tournament?
The one in Kansas City or the Indiana one?
Kansas City one.
The competition level, like compared to even like the preseason nationals, other tournaments, it's so much higher with the P&L league, because like you said, they're all well coached or just good athletes, good wrestlers. So that was a big thing. It was a smaller tournament, not the same atmosphere. Still had a good amount of mats, but like the competition was so much better, I feel like.
Yeah. And plus, it's got to be kind of crazy as a high school kid. Like, you walk out in the middle of the mat, and you look on the other side, and you see Ben Askren in the corner, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, guess I'm wrestling these kids. Or you see DC in the corner. Oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna wrestle against Daniel Cormier's kids right now. All right, cool. All right, let's do it. Let's go.
Looks the same as TV. Okay.
Yeah. Martinez in the corner. Wait a second. John Jones' corner recently. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So out of those two tournaments, actually, out of the whole preseason that you've had up to this point and the success you had there, what's kind of like one or two of the I guess the biggest, what you would consider the biggest wins that you had in the preseason so far?
The biggest wins. So I wrestled a guy from Askren in I think my second to last match of the P&L tournament.
Yeah.
So my bracket was weird. It was like pool play. Yeah. So I lost one match, but the highest place I could get was fifth, because it like just the way the bracket was sorted. So I wrestled a guy from Askren, and he was a strong guy. He was probably a few inches shorter than me, but he was like filled out. He was filled out. He was really strong and a technical wrestler. And I wrestled him, and that one was pretty good. I ended up teching him towards the end of the match, because at the end he took a bad shot, and I think I like took him straight to his back somehow. I forget how, but that was a pretty big one for me.
Good.
And then also,
how about the preseason nationals?
The preseason nationals, probably that seventh place match was good. It was a close one. Came down the last couple seconds. It was a pretty good match, I think.
Cool. Good. You were going to say one more?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about the other one, the 5th place match at the P&L tournament.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that one ended up being a Tech 2. I think I took the guy down to his back, got some back points, and then took him down a couple more times. That was pretty good. I was feeling good in my neutral at that tournament, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the one. That's honestly the biggest area of improvement I've seen from you. Is your neutral position is really, really coming along really well.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to work on most of the off season. Between the last 2 years, really, it's my neutral because I used to be a bigger weight. Like I was 180-ish my freshman year and like shorter than I am now. And I slimmed out, went to 145, but I still had like big man feet. I was still super slow. So and my neutral wasn't that good. So I had to work on my neutral and get faster.
Yeah. Wow.
So here's a question: that the club tournament, is that, and this is for all the viewers out here, not because I don't know, but is that freestyle or folk style?
Yeah,
That's folk style.
Is it
folk
also
style right now? Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll
since it was a club, if it was still
well, they're all like year-round clubs. So basically, it's whatever session they're like. Right now, we're all in folk style session.
right.
So,
I didn't know if that technically set.
Yeah, but we'll like our competition, and I know our next competition. We're taking the middle school kids in January to Colorado. We got a competition there, but then our one in April is in Wisconsin. That'll be freestyle Greco.
Okay.
And that'll be forever, the grades 5 through 12. So yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because y'all kept talking about it, and I'm like, we talked about it last week too, and that just came to mind. So thank you.
Oh yeah. No worries. Now, last wrestling question, and we'll get you out of here, my man. All right. Some advice.
Right.
So advice to some younger kids that maybe aren't seeing a whole lot of success right out the gate, especially in those national level tournaments. What's some advice from somebody like yourself that's now starting to make his mark a little bit at these national tournaments? What's some advice to these young kids?
Yeah. So like
really
years ago, right? The advice to yourself 3 years ago, right?
Oh. So really the big thing I would say is consistency. That's like the underlying thing. You just got to keep showing up no matter what, really. I went to a few tournaments like last season after the wrestling season. I went to folk style nationals, like the postseason one, not the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
I went 0-2 at that tournament. It was my first year in the big age group. I went 0-2 in that tournament. That was a rough one, but learned a few things from it, and over time started getting better and better placements until this past month or so. Yeah, started actually placing.
So did you just say keep at it? Is that what you're saying?
Just keep at it, keep showing up. And also for the younger kids, really at a certain age, you're not really going to be motivated unless you love the sport, right? So you need to love it, and you need to embrace the process. You need to embrace the process. So it's not just the winning. You can't just be motivated by the winning. You got to enjoy practicing too. Like I go into practice excited every day. Well, most days.
Yeah.
But most days, I try my best.
But you know what? That's being honest though, because anybody that says, "Oh, I'm happy every day I go to practice," come on.
Yeah, some days I'm a little tired.
Easy now, come on now. Oh, that's awesome.
It's important to do that.
Anything else for my man Brodie here?
No, I'm just really glad I got to meet you. That's really awesome. Another great human that we get to talk to and learn about. So, and I'm glad that other people are getting the opportunity to learn from you as well. So, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad. I'm glad he's finding the fruits to his labor.
Yeah.
Because, he's definitely been putting the work in. He's been grinding for these last couple of years, and now it's, now he's really starting to make his mark. So super proud of him.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Grateful to be on the podcast and grateful to wrestle Young Guns Nashville. It's nice. It's a good room. Great room.
Appreciate it.
Another shout out. Had to give one.
Right. I love it. Brodie, my man. I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for your time. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, Miss Andy.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All right.
That's so cute. He called me Miss Andy.
Yeah,
that was so cute.
He's a great kid. He's awesome.
You
might know his dad. His dad's Brodie Melzoni. He's a head coach at Nolensville. He's been for a while. Oh yeah. That's his son, Brodie. Huh. And and he's awesome. It's the whole family's just great people. And, Johnny's doing
that explains a lot.
Fantastic job. Yeah, fantastic job of that program. They're really, really, really coming along, and that not only, I mean, they've been, their numbers have been building and building and building over the past, I don't know. I think he's been in charge there maybe the last 4 or 5 years or whatever, maybe.
Yeah.
Not only numbers are building now, he's got like, I would say probably between Nolensville, Ravenwood, and Brentwood would probably be my biggest numbers that I have in my club room from those 3 high schools. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nolensville's got a lot. They send a lot of kids that show up there, and they're all getting, I mean, they're all, yeah, I'm excited to watch them wrestle.
I love seeing growth and progress, and that's awesome. I love the aspect. What I like the most out of having him here today is, and each kid that we've interviewed, it's something different. But I think it's really important to note the consistency across everything he's talking about, whether it's his schoolwork, whether it's when you start doing, as well as I do, you got to start going to those national tournaments. And some people get their feelings hurt when they don't do well at those things, and they've spent money and time and all these things. But if you want to get good at it, you have to keep grinding. You have to keep putting yourself out there, and you have to just keep grinding. Yeah.
Yeah. This is always my question to them when they say that. And like, okay, well then what's the option then? So if you don't go to the tournament because you don't think you're ready now, what's the option? You're going to go when you think you're ready, or you're not going to go at all. And then you're going to let like all your other competitions start going to these things. And then all of a sudden now you're further behind, and you're going to get further and further and further back. At some point in time, you're just going to have to jump off and see if
you got to put yourself out there, right?
That's the way it works. I mean, and it's just, that's the way, I mean, again, what's the option? What's the other option? What's the other option? You're just going to sit down and wrestle the local tournaments? Is that what you're going to do?
You're going to settle for mediocrity in life.
What are you going to, what's the option? Well, okay. So there's the other option. Does that help line up with what you're telling me your goal is?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Some colleges going to love him.
He's because like I said, he's not one that started at a young age and went to all these national tournaments and had success after year 3. I mean, he's like literally, he's
only year 3.
No. After like a lot of kids will jump into these national tournaments.
I was
really
like,
already. It only takes a year or so to figure it out,
Yeah.
Because they're starting at 8th grade or 9th grade or whatever, starting getting these tournaments.
Yeah.
Whereas he's started doing this at a couple years ago, so you're looking at 8th grade year or whatever, and not having a whole lot of success. But I mean, some he'd go to some, but like all like the really really legit national tournaments, like these 2 that he just placed in 2 years ago, he just told you he didn't win any matches last year, that spring at the South Nationals. He went 0-2.
This makes me so happy. Don't you just
got to keep, you got to keep grinding.
Don't you just love like somebody that does put the work in, like was doing, he was probably doing okay in our scene and everything before all that, but like he made a decision and he's putting the work in, and now he's reaping some benefits from it. And I just think he's going to make an amazing adult, but I also think that if he wants to wrestle in college, there's so many coaches that want that kid. They want that personality minimum, because they can work with that, if nothing else.
He's not having any problem for him. So, absolutely. Well, good. Well, speaking of no problem, that's it for us. That's a wrap for tonight. Good stuff. Probably could have kept both these 2 on the podcast, just been a one-man show.
We could have been like a Brady Bunch thing, and we could have it like all of it.
Had a big, little big session there. Yeah, we'll get a couple more guests on next week. We're probably going to start having. I know that we're not big into results, but there'll be some tournaments, that pretty legit tournaments coming up here.
Yeah.
That we're probably going to have to take note of a little bit, maybe some highlight matches and stuff like that. So we will have some results, ladies and gentlemen. But we're trying to gear these more towards the interview side. So that's it. Good deal. Well, Andi Jones, best of luck in you're Ravenwood this weekend. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I might see you over there. There's a good chance I'll stop over there. I didn't know that Raven was going on. So
if I find out that you were there, which I will, because you will talk about it next week. If I find out that you were there and you didn't come by,
I'll find you. Yeah, I'll find you. Sure. Yep.
Bring me a USA Wrestling shirt.
I'm glad that. What's that?
Bring me a USA Wrestling T-shirt.
Yes, I do.
Or Young Guns. I mean, something, right?
And/or. How's that? And/or.
And/or.
And/or. How's that?
And/or.
I'll just say and. I'll just bring a Young Guns and a Young Guns shirt and a Tennessee. That's right. Everyone, let me make note of that right now.
I'm a medium. And all you folks out there, we're mediums if you want to send us shirts. Would you like to see your shirt on the screen?
I don't want any more.
I have too many. Thank you.
Give him the Coach Jones. Yeah.
I would like a Sacred Heart shirt. I do want one of those. I'm
I'll
collecting women's team shirts, So
okay, Andy, I got you.
We're logged in.
Yep, I'll stop over and I'll pick one up tomorrow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Great podcast, great guests on there. Looking forward to seeing y'all next week. So take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.